Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters across the world, let's take a moment to breathe. Just one moment, because what we are about to talk about isn't just politics. It isn't just strategy. It isn't just missiles and borders. It's humanity standing on a razor's edge, trembling in the shadow of something we've feared since the last Great War. Are we heading toward World War III? That question isn't just a headline anymore. It's becoming a heartbeat, louder, faster. And it's echoing across the deserts of the Middle East, across the halls of Washington, across the underground shelters of Tel Aviv, and the oil fields of Tehran. You see, when Iran, Israel, and the United States lock eyes across a battlefield of ideology, vengeance, and power, the world holds its breath. This isn't just another news cycle. This is the start of a dangerous dance where one wrong move, one mistaken missile, one unchecked ego can ignite a storm the world may not recover from. Just think about it. Iran feels cornered. Sanctions choke its economy, its pride, its identity. It's tied to resistance. Israel feels threatened. Rockets scream into its skies. Fear has a zip code now. And America is standing with Israel, locked in its own political war back home, while walking a tightrope abroad. This isn't fiction. This isn't theory. This is real, right now. Let me take you deeper. Let me show you what's really at stake. We're watching proxy wars escalate into direct confrontations. We're watching cyber attacks evolve into missile strikes. We're watching peace talks dissolve into public threats. And worst of all, we're watching people become numbers. Men, women, children reduced to statistics on screens while the world debates if this is a just tension or the start of an inferno. And here's the painful truth. War doesn't knock. It explodes. And when nations play with fire for too long, they forget one thing. It burns everything, including the hands that lit it. Now ask yourself, who wins if this becomes a full-scale war? Not the mother in Tehran holding her baby while drones fly overhead. Not the father in Tel Aviv praying his child makes it to school safely. Not the soldier sent to a foreign desert wondering why diplomacy failed. No one wins. Only grief grows the domino effect of modern warfare. The world doesn't fight in isolation anymore. This isn't 1945. Back then, war looked different. Countries lined up in uniforms. Bombs were dropped, but mostly by planes from above. Conflict had borders. It had battle fronts. It had a slower pace of escalation. Nations had time to negotiate, time to blink, time to think. But that's not the world we live in anymore. Today, one strike doesn't just ignite a local fire. It sparks a global wildfire. Because in 2025, we're no longer living in a world divided by oceans. We're all connected, militarily, economically, digitally, emotionally. You strike one nation, and within minutes, its allies activate. You send one drone, and within seconds, another is already responding. We are living in an age of instant retaliation, where war spreads like a virus, and everyone is just one click away from involvement. Let's be brutally honest. If Iran is struck, let's say by an Israeli airstrike or a US-backed operation, it won't stay between those two nations. It never does. The chessboard is already set with proxy powers. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Houthi rebels in Yemen, militia groups in Syria and Iraq. They are the trigger fingers of Iran's foreign influence. The moment Iran bleeds, they move, and they don't ask for permission. Those missiles, they don't need to hit just Israeli military posts. They'll target cities, civilians, airports, embassies. And when Israel retaliates, as it always does, it won't just target the proxies, it'll go after the source. Tehran, Quds Force, nuclear facilities. And right there is when the United States enters the storm. Because make no mistake, the US isn't a neutral party. Its bases across the region in Bahrain, Iraq, Qatar, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia become instant targets. Troops are stationed there, military assets are parked there. Iran has already made it clear. If the US steps in, they will too, and not with words. And here's where it becomes catastrophic. The moment American interests are hit, Washington doesn't sit still. It acts. And when it acts, the world watches. But not just watches, positions itself. Russia starts moving ships in the Mediterranean. China steps up its naval presence. NATO nations call emergency meetings. Everyone starts choosing sides. Not because they want to, but because they have to. This isn't just about missiles and borders anymore. It's about oil prices, global supply chains, refugee waves, cybersecurity, political alliances, economic fallout. The ripple effect of one modern war hits everything: your gas prices, your stock market, your safety. Because we don't live in silos. We live in a global economy where markets crash on conflict. We live in a digital battlefield where cyber attacks can take out power grids or shut down hospitals from across the world. We live in a militarized internet where fake news spreads panic faster than any bomb ever could. We live in a world of alliances where one nation's problem becomes everyone's burden. And let's not forget the psychological war. Fear travels faster than bullets. The images, the air raid sirens, the missiles lighting up the skies. These aren't scenes from a movie. They're now live streamed, broadcasted, viral. The whole world sees, reacts, and often panics. That panic breeds bad decisions, stock sell-offs, border closures, civil unrest. The war may start in one place, but it haunts all places. And here's the most dangerous truth. This fuse has already been lit. It didn't begin with a missile. It began with years of mistrust, with sanctions, assassinations, proxy wars. It began when nations stopped talking and started warning. Now we're watching diplomats try to stitch together peace with thread soaked in gasoline. One spark, and the fire spreads. Me. So understand this. When we ask, will Iran respond? Or will Israel strike again? Or will the US deploy more troops that only affect those countries, we're asking questions that affect all of us. You, me, everyone. Because war in the 21st century doesn't knock on just one door. It barges into every home, every screen, every life. This isn't just a Middle East issue. This is a worldwide fuse, and it's already burning towards something we may not be ready for. The only question now is, will someone be brave enough to put it out before it reaches the powder keg? The forgotten faces of war. When headlines hide humanity, we talk strategy, we talk policy. We analyze maps and military formations. We debate sanctions, airstrikes, treaties, troop movements, like it's all just a game of chess. But war is never just politics. What about the child who never sees their father return from the front? What about the little girl who wakes up every night screaming, not because of nightmares, but because the sound of drones still echoes in her mind? What about the family that loses everything to a missile strike that no government wants to take responsibility for? What about the mother who has to dig through rubble with her bare hands, praying to find even a photo of her son left behind? These are not stories we often hear. They don't make it into primetime news. They don't trend on social media for more than a moment. Because it's easier for the world to talk about strategic interests and to admit the real price of war. Real people, real pain, real silence. Because war silences voices. It steals futures. It takes everything vibrant and living and turns it into ash, debris, and statistics. We see the headlines. Our retaliation continues in the Middle East. Tensions escalate. Leaders warn of severe consequences. But behind those headlines are the ones we ignore. The child too scared to go to school because the sky rains death. The father who can't afford bread anymore because war crushed the economy. The grandmother who has to explain to her grandson why they sleep in a basement with candles instead of a warm home. And this isn't limited to one country or one side. Pain doesn't wear a flag. Suffering doesn't check passports. Innocent blood spilled in Israel hurts just as deeply as innocent blood spilled in Iran or Gaza or Syria or Lebanon or Iraq. When a mother cries over the loss of her child, it doesn't matter which side of the border she's on. The sound of grief is the same. Yet we've become numb. We scroll past images of war-torn cities like they're movie sets. We double-tap pictures of rubble and move on to sports highlights. The world has seen so much pain, it's begun to treat it like background noise. But we must not forget, behind every political headline is a beating heart. Behind every military strike is a family that will never be whole again. And behind every war is a generation that will never know peace. Children are growing up knowing nothing but sirens and gunfire. Teenagers are learning how to survive, not thrive. An entire generation is being raised in fear, learning that power equals violence, and justice is just a word politicians use when they want applause. This is the cost. Not just in lives lost, but in lives unlived. Dreams that are buried before they're born. Laughter that never echoes in playgrounds because the playgrounds were turned to dust. Weddings that never happen. Songs that never get written. Books that never get read. And we must ask ourselves, when the dust settles, when the weapons fall silent, what will be left? Buildings can be rebuilt. Economies can be restored. But souls? Souls take generations to heal, if they ever do. So as world leaders sit around tables, deciding the next moves in this deadly dance of war, as military generals outline new strategies, as news anchors read scripts filled with fear and fury, we must be the ones who remember the forgotten, because every decision made by the powerful echoes in the lives of the powerless. And if we allow ourselves to keep looking away, if we keep pretending this is just another geopolitical squabble, then we become complicit in the silence. We become part of the machine that sees war as numbers, not names, as tactics, not tragedy. So no, this isn't just about borders or beliefs or oil or control. This is about the people who didn't ask for any of it, the civilians, the children, the brokenhearted. And if their stories don't matter to us, if we let their pain be swallowed by politics, then what does that say about us? Let us not be another generation that talks louder about weapons than we do about wounds. Let us remember that every war fought by governments is paid for by the people. And let us never forget, peace is not just the absence of conflict, it's the presence of justice, compassion, and the courage to speak up for those who are too broken to speak for themselves. Because if we lose our humanity in the noise of war, then we've already lost, no matter who wins. Conclusion: we are not just bystanders to this moment in history. We are witnesses to a turning point. If we do not speak up, if we do not demand wisdom over warfare, diplomacy over destruction, then we will walk into a fire with our eyes wide open. The decisions made in the next weeks, not months, not years, will define our children's future. And if we choose ego over empathy, or retaliation over reason, then we may not be heading toward World War III. We may be inviting it, but there's still time, there's still hope, because peace is not weakness. It is the greatest show of strength. Let us remember that wars may start with governments, but they end with graves. Let us be loud. Let us be aware. Let us be human. Because if humanity forgets its humanity, then what's left to fight for?